It'd be nice to ease on into me coming on screen instead of just the abrupt ending to my man tap dancing. Hello, Melania, how good? Milani, how are you? I can't even speak. It's been a long day already. It's been a long day already. So, um, welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. So we're gonna have another show for you. I think there's gonna be so much content for some of the greater content creators out there. With this, the next 4 years and a half is going to be very, very interesting. What's going on, Edward? Yeah, it's going to be real interesting. So I was just thinking, Trump came out with a couple of his directives already. Some people are saying this is the end of DEI. Of course, under my name, I've had this on DEI is where meritocracy goes to die. I've had that on there for a long time, uh, so we're going to have some discussions on DEI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think there's some merits to it, and I'll tell you why. But not the way it's being implemented. That's the issue: how they implement it, how they force it, how they do those kind of things. So, I guess you guys can hear me pretty good, right? Hopefully, I don't want to blast things out. Uh, just give me a one in the chat. I'm sure you can. If you couldn't, probably would have said something already. We're gonna just let some folks get in here, and we're gonna get started. I have, of course, always. I appreciate everybody coming up. Catellia, how you doing? Yeah, I got you. Thank you. Of course, I got videos. I'm gonna bring back my charts because I did some more numbers, and we'll get to that. But I want to show you some numbers to say what kind of predicament that we might be in. Predicament might be a strong word. I think we're into a pickle now because there's proof that even if 100% of all blacks voted for Kamala Harris, she would have still lost. She would have still lost, I think, 6 out of the 7 battleground states as well. So I'm gonna put some numbers to that, and I'm gonna show you. I'm not gonna make it complicated, but I'm gonna show some numbers. So we can just go ahead because that'll get me into what happens next. What happens when your vote is no longer the deciding factor of your benefactor, and how do they behave after that? What's going on, Braxton? How you doing? So stay tuned. I'm going to step through it. I'll drop the link for those who want to come up in a little while. I just want to get through some of the, I guess, preliminaries. Again, Black folks, the question really is, what does Black America look like in a post DEI era? And of course, these two things never went away: merit and competition. But how does your life change or get enhanced? Because you're going to have to perform and get ahead based on your merit and based on the competition you're willing to put up there to get the things that you want against other people. Hey, good evening, Braxton. So I think that's worthy of discussion. It's not just me talking to you. If you haven't been thinking about this already, it's time to think about it, right? Because a lot of you guys are a whole lot younger than me. You're still out there competing in the workforce and competing for jobs, competing for mates, competing for things to make your life better. And the safety nets that used to be out there are going to be taken away. I think that's one of the things that I think the population voted for. As opposed to all of the wokeism and all that kind of stuff, I think people are up for the challenge as long as the government does what it was intended to do. That's protect the borders, to protect the food, be truthful about the kind of medicines and vaccines that we have to take. I mean, all kinds of stuff, right? Free speech. I mean, just follow the Constitution. Live up to the constitutional stuff and stop forcing things on people. So I think the referendum in the country is going to be quite interesting for the future for all of us, right? So, I looked up a couple of things, right? So that the title says, Black folks in post DEI era America. So merit and competition is what we're going to have to stand on. So, I looked up the definition of merit. I think most of you guys know what it is, but let's just go through it, right? Merit is the quality of being particularly good and worthy, deserving of praise and or reward. It's right on Google. Then I looked up competition. Now, it's so funny. I didn't look in a lot of different spaces, but where I looked, what I didn't like is they kept using the word competition in the definition. Now, somewhere along the line when I was being educated, and they said the last thing you can do is use the word as part of the definition. I don't think that advances anything. So you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I just didn't like it. So I kind of made up my own definition, like who the hell am I to come up with a definition? But I think I think it fits. I think competition is a rivalry between two or more entities for a limited number of rewards. In other words, there's going to be winners and losers for a prize. And that's how I look at it. When I say entities, it's not always humans that compete against each other. Sometimes there's multiple competitions going on at the same time. If you're a race car driver, yeah, it's one racer against the other, but the real competition is how well the cars perform. So the cars themselves get rewards for certain technology that they use under the constraints of the race. So, so that's my definition, just a little bit different, right? The rivalry between two or more entities for a limited number of rewards. In other words, there's going to be winners and losers for a prize. And we're not talking about what you call it, those kind of trophies that participation trophies. We're not talking about participation trophies. So that's the kind of America we're going to probably be in. and and I have a question for everybody after I show these slides, because I could ask it now and I could ask it again in a little while when I come up to it. So one of the questions I ask people who are still working, and you got to ask yourself this too: do you think you've gotten where you are, or do you think you have the job, the position, the bennies, whatever you might want to call it, because of DEI, or did you merit that? You know what I'm saying? Anything that the way you're living, the way you're striving, the way you're progressing, the people you interface with, the accomplishments that you've made, is that based on somebody giving it to you because of the color of your skin, or your sex, or your if you're pretty privileged, you get that whether you want it or not. But I'm just sitting down here saying, would you be kind of offended if somebody says everything that you've accomplished is because somebody gave it to you because of a DEI? And would you admit to that, or do you agree with that? So those are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. And when I dropped the panel, I dropped the link. Maybe there's some things that people could talk about, because well, Edward, when you said that, honestly, we can never know the truth because you can. You can, right? Because there's a connotation that if you're given something outside of merit, then you might not be worthy of the job, right? So if you're getting performance ratings that says that, shit, man, not only are you good, but you're excelling at the job, then you probably were qualified for it. So I don't know. You got to do a little bit more reflection on that. I was an engineer. When I went to engineering school, I was like maybe one or two Black guys in my whole engineering department. Now, when I got in, I had to actually made me earn my way into the engineering department. I had to pass some extra tests and shit like that. But once I got into the engineering program, there was no DEI test. I took the same test that every white person in that school took, and I had to pass them. As a matter of fact, it was harder for me because it took me a while to find, you used to team up. You had to team up in pairs or triplets and do projects together. And nobody back then wanted to do that with the black guy, right? So I had to go ahead and kind of even merit to even get a good team together to help get out of it. So it was tough back then. But when my diploma did not say DEI on that shit. You know what I'm saying? It didn't say that. You had to merit your way in. I had to merit my way out. And I think so. A lot of you folks had to do the same thing. That's why I was mad at Joy Reid for saying if it wasn't for DEI, she would have. I can't stand her, by the way. But I can't stand her because she's a liar. And because before they struck down affirmative action, if you were to call her a DEI hire to get that show on MSNBC, she would have argued. She would have argued with you. She would have called you all kinds of names out under the sun. But as soon as they struck down affirmative action, she got on TV and said, "I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for DEI." Nobody admits that kind of shit. Nobody. And she's lying. I give her the benefit of the doubt. I think she's lying. I think she was qualified for the job, such as it was. So so there's a difference, and I can tell you one of the difference about the DEI. Biden caused Kamala Harris to get the stigma of DEI, not because she wasn't worthy to be vice president, right? You could get two pieces of ham sandwiches together and they could be vice president, right? But he announced that he was looking for a woman of color to be vice president. He put the stigma on her. He did that. Because if he wouldn't have said anything, then he would have picked her. It should have been based on something else other than her skin color and her sex, right? He stigmatized her. He also stigmatized Judge Jackson, because he says, "I want to put a black woman on the court." Now, she didn't acquit herself well in the confirmation hearing because she couldn't define what a woman is. And if I was on a hearing board, I would have voted against her just for her bad answer. However, if he would have just said, whatever the criteria was to put her another Supreme Court justice on the court, without talking about her sex and without talking about her race, it would have been an easier pill for people to swallow because he stigmatized her. Do you guys see what I'm saying? He actually did that. Because, when you talk about DEI, the I is supposed to be for inclusion, but when you use it the way he did, it was exclusionary. It was exclusionary. So that was the problem. So I just say, I don't know. So we're going to get a little bit more into that, but I want to go back to the numbers. And just kind of before we kick off and get all the way into all of this and why things and the climate is going to change for all of us, whether we wanted to or not. So I'm going to go back to the numbers. I'm not going to make it complicated. I'm going to just kind of fly through it real quick and just get to the bottom line. So just bear with me. I'm going to share that with you guys right now. Hold on. Where's it at? Here you go. All right. All right. So let's get to the numbers. All right. So listen. So we looked at these numbers before. I guess you're going to get sick of this, right? But looking at them. But it is what it is. So if you look at, the black line, the 77% black men, the 91% black women. So my contention last week was that even if 100% of us voted for Kamala Harris, she still would have lost. And when I said, well, let me go ahead and prove that theory, swing state by swing state, okay? And so I did the numbers, all right, because some questions are going to flow from this. So the chart, the the modified chart will look like this, right? 100% black men, 100% black women voted for Kamala Harris. So then you have to come up to this chart up here where it says non-white. That would change the percentage points from the actual 64% to 69%. And the vote for Trump would have went from 33% down to 28%, but that's only 29% of the electorate. The rest of the electorate would stay the same at 71%. So you see the numbers where I'm going. So that impacted of the 5% on the 29%. It's not going to be that big, you know. So here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and so here's the swing states, and it's real quick, right? So here's the difference, and this is a snapshot in time after the election. So some of the votes were trickling in, so these numbers might not be exact, but Trump won all of these states by this margin that you see right here, 184, 115 there. And so when I did the calculations and I made some assumptions that the 2.25, 2.23 million, well, 2.25 million extra votes would have went to Harris, right? So I did that. So you divide that over all the states, it comes out to roughly, with my assumptions. You can make your own assumptions, but based on my assumptions, if everything was distributed evenly, there would have been 44,000 extra votes, or maybe more like 45,000 extra votes for each of those swing states. So this column all the way here is the adjusted numbers. If Kamala Harris would have got those extra 45,000 votes in Arizona, she still would have lost. In Georgia, she still would have lost. In Michigan, she still would have lost. In Nevada, it would be real close. There might be some contention, but she still lost. In North Carolina, she still lost. In Pennsylvania, she still lost. However, in Wisconsin, she would have won. So Trump would have won, and Wisconsin has 10 electoral votes. And I'm making sure I said electoral correctly because my brother, unceremoniously said, it's not electoral, it's electoral. And I knew that, but I was saying it wrong. And then for that, he's punishing me by saying he'll never look at anything I put out again. So for the love of blood, but I think he's mad because I said that he's still on the plantation. So he doesn't like that connotation. So he says he doesn't want to hear what I got to say because it's not a plantation. I said, whatever. But we'll be having turkey dinner anyway. So it's not a big deal. But anyhow, so you guys see the numbers. So what does that really mean? Okay. What does that mean? And that's why we're here. What does it mean for her? What's going on? What does it mean for her to have lost that mandate? And what does it mean for us as Black Americans, African Americans, whatever you want to call us? What does it mean that our vote is no longer so critical that the Republicans or the conservatives have to worry about, even if the Democrats get it all? One, it means a lot of things. One, it means that we're on the wrong side of history. That's one thing. That's at least that's what I'm thinking. So and it means a whole lot more than that, right? Okay, so what does it mean to you? What do you think that means to you? What does that mean to Black women who are by far the biggest supporters of the Democrats over everybody else in the country? So let's go back to the original chart. If every other demographic in the country looks at the electorate as something that should be fluid, and depending on the situation, this is how you should vote. Even if you have left or right leanings, you still should be looking at policy, at things that make a difference in your life, and not some undying, unflinching devotion to some puppet masters who actually have never done, who haven't done anything for us substantive that makes our lives better. Because all you got to do is take a peek in the inner cities, and you know that's true. Take a peek at our families, and you know that's true. Take a peek at the jails, you know that's true. Take a peek at drug addicts. Take a peek at, single parenthood. That's baby and daddyism, baby mamaism and baby daddyism. Okay, takes for that one. It takes so we are so divided, and I think there's a correlation to us being so dedicated to the party that keeps us in victimized mentality. It's a plantation. As my brother got in, we got into, not really into it, but I said, listen, the Democratic Party had us in shackles when we were in slavery. Now they're having us in mental shackles now. And so now I'm concentrating on the 21% and the 7% of women who are saying, hey, you know what? Maybe this is not the best for us going into the future. So 2028, I'm hoping to see, in 2028, I'm hoping to see that number for men go to at least 40%. And I'd be pretty happy to see that number for women go to 15 to 20%. So it depends on how well Trump does, of course, and the administration. So that's that. So, but let's get to the elephant in the room. Let's get to one of the elephants in the room that we should talk about while I have these charts open. And maybe before I go there, let me go here. I'll come back to this. This chart here, right, is one of the things, the illustrations that I want to make sure that we get clear on. If you see that middle band here, that's where the independence lies, right? That's where I think all the free thinkers are. The people who think policy, who think, issues. These are where the issue voters are. You can't just tell me to vote for you because you're a Democrat. Can't tell me to vote for you because you're a Republican. Give me some reason to do it. Or else, that's why I want to stay independent. Even though people who call themselves independent, most of them lean to one party or the other. However, they'll also tell you that they're free thinkers in terms of, depending on what's coming down the pike, I'll vote for a Republican or I'll vote for a Democrat. Even though that's not my party affiliation, because I don't like the position or the direction one party's going into, and I want to stop the pain. So I think it's time for Black folks to say, let's stop the pain. And I think we're starting to see little progress in that area. Because like it or not, whining is not going to get us what we want, because we're going to be in a post woke era, the post DEI era. There's going to be smaller government, and a lot of programs people are used to are going to go away. So let's hit the elephant in the room. This is one of the elephants in the room. Okay. And this is the cabinet as it is right now. This is some of the people. So we're already starting to hear the chirping. Where's the Black people? Where's the Black people? Where's the Black people? Well, that mindset that we have to have representation in every little thing, in every small group, is the reason why we're in the position we're in now. Right? We already know that having a Black face in a high place doesn't mean shit. It hasn't. In some cases it might have worked, but in a lot of cases it's an idea past due. I mean, it's an idea, or not past due, obsolete. How many Black mayors have just made a shit out of the towns they took over? How many AGs? You know how many are in jail? I'm in New Jersey. I remember Sharp James from way past when he went to jail, I believe. Right, the mayor, sister mayor, she went to jail. The chick in Maryland got out of going to jail. You know, Tiffany Henyard. Look at the dude from Chicago. The black people in Chicago hates him. They hate him. Matter of fact, he's as close to a race traitor that I've ever seen in my life. He took and just threw all these migrants into those neighborhoods where they're going into your neighborhood. These are the black faces. Eric Adams was the same way until you understand. I'm hurting my own people, and for for being a bad boy, they indicted his ass. You know, so we got 4 years to see how this thing is going to change, right? I don't think I needed to see a black face in this. I mean, who cares? We've been there. We've done that. So, and it's not over yet. I mean, there's like 5,000 appointments that he's got to make. So we shouldn't start tripping over that. Plus, I like Tulsi. I like a couple of things. I like Elon Musk and Vivek because they're not really part of the government. They're like an independent, orderly group that's going to go and reshape things. So anybody out there with a government job, uh, look at how essential the job that you're in. Now here's another thing, folks. It ain't going to be that easy for Trump just to go and eliminate certain places. It's not going to happen that easy, right? So these are ideas. Some of the things have to actually go through Congress to be enacted. Everything can't just happen by executive order. So before everybody gets too frightened, you know, just let's breathe. Oh, that's right. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Edward. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Hey, listen, Letitia James is not out of the woods because it turned out her prosecution of Trump for those business deals didn't really have any real. It wasn't really a crime. It was a business deal again between two qualified entities, and they made it into a crime because he said his properties were worth more than he did. Now, everybody who sells a house tries to up the value of that house to the seller. And it's up to the seller to do a better assessment to get you to bring that price down. This guy did this with banks. They have actuaries. They had the best people to say, I don't care if he gets a couple extra bucks, as long as I get my money back. That's not a crime. So she might lose her license over that. She might, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to say this because I know people are saying, because I'm starting to hear it over the internet, where's the blackies? Where's the blackies? Well, that's plantation thinking. That's the plantation. And even the ones who were in the 21% or the 7%, they might say, oh man, maybe we made a mistake. That's the residual plantation thinking in your head. Let it go. Let it go. Anyway, so that's enough for this for now. If any questions on the numbers, I try to, I didn't want to just make a statement that if 100% of us voted for Harris, she would have still lost. I wanted to put that to numbers. And I don't know anybody else who's done it, but I did it, right? Because it was those swing states that would have made a difference. And yeah, she would have won one of them. So that the final number would have been 236 against 302. Still a wide margin, so you heard it here first. Yeah, I did the numbers. I needed something to do, so that's what I did. So let me stop sharing this, put my ugly mug back on the top, and say what's next. So that brings me to a clip that I wanted to show you guys. Hey, what's going on, Mandra? A race trader. That's what my man. No, not Ben Carson. No, he's not. Yeah, he was brilliant. He's just an idiot as a public speaker sometimes. But Brandon Johnson definitely is. There's no doubt about it. And he's got receipts to prove it. Anyway, that's this Mandrell thing I'm answering right here. So let me just kind of show it. Yeah, yeah. Look, leave my man, gifted hands out of this. You can't compare Brandon Johnson to Ben Carson. Yeah, I would argue that. Anyway, so listen, what I want to do is show you guys a clip of my girl Candace Owens. And where is Candace? Now, she's in Congress, but I'm going to say a couple of things and then I'm going to let it play, but I'm not going to play all of it. But listen to what she says and keep in your mind that I think, well, let's just play it. Let me shut up. Let me play this damn thing.
Ms. Owens.
That was unfair.
It was not unfair. You had plenty of extra time. Ms.
No,
Owens.
I did not.
Ms. Owens.
Mr. Chairman, There we go. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Mr. Collins, thank you for having me here today. I received word on my way in that many of the journalists were confused as to why I was invited, and none of them knew that I myself was the victim of a hate crime when I was in high school. That's something that very few people know about me because the media and the journalists and the left are not interested in telling the truth about me because I don't fit the stereotype of what they like to see in Black people. I'm a Democrat. I support the President of the United States, and I advocate for things that are actually affecting the Black community. I'm honored to be here today in front of you all because the person sitting behind me is my 75-year-old grandfather. I've always considered myself to be my grandfather's child, and I mean to say that my sense of humor, my passion, and my work ethic all comes from the man that is sitting behind me. My grandfather grew up on a sharecropping farm in the segregated South. He grew up in an America where words like racism and white nationalism held real meaning under the Democrat Party's Jim Crow laws. My grandfather's first job was given to him at the age of 5 years old, and his job was to lay tobacco out to dry in an attic in the South. My grandfather has picked cotton, and he has also had experiences with the Democrat terrorist organization of that time, the Ku Klux Klan. They would regularly visit his home and they would shoot bullets into it. They had an issue with his father, my great-grandfather. During my formative years, I had the privilege of growing up in my grandfather's home. It's going to shock the committee, but not once, not in a single breath of a conversation did my grandfather tell me that I could not do something because of my skin color. Not once did my grandfather hold a gripe against the white man. I was simply never taught to view myself as a victim because of my heritage. I learned about faith in God, family, and hard work. Those were the only lessons of my childhood. There isn't a single adult today that in good conscience would make the argument that America is a more racist or a more white nationalist society than it was when my grandfather was growing up. And yet we're hearing these terms sent around today because what they want to say is that brown people need to be scared, which seems to be the narrative that we hear every 4 years right ahead of a presidential election. Here are some things we never hear. 75% of the Black boys in California don't meet state reading standards. In inner cities like Baltimore, within 5 high schools and 1 middle school, not a single student was found to be proficient in math or reading in 2016. The single motherhood rate in the Black community, which is at 23% in the 1960s when my grandfather was coming up, is at a staggering 74% today. I am guessing.
All right, so I mentioned this before. Let me stop that right there about the illiteracy rate and the baby mamaism rate. And there's a baby daddyism, but we say single motherhood rate because the dads are not there for whatever reason. 74%. That's huge. And this is all under, on the plantation, right? I mean, that's where we are. I mean, where's the benefits of being on the planet? Less marriages, more broken families, more poverty, more crime, more illiteracy. Where is the benefits of being on a plantation for maybe anybody else other than flex for, for whomever? I don't know.
There will be no committee hearings about that. There are more Black babies aborted than born alive in cities like New York, and you have Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo lighting up buildings to celebrate late-term abortions. I could go on and on. My point is that.
Right, so we don't need her to go on. Of course, everybody knows this was 5 years ago. This was 5 years ago. You got it, Edward. This was somebody said it. That was 5 years ago. Okay, that is an older version of Candace. 5 years ago, she could have said this same thing in front of Congress before this election too. We haven't made any progress. We got worse. Not only did we get worse, let me also say this. Back then, our votes still mattered, right? Back then, our votes still helped swing a couple of, help swing a swing state or two. So a mere 4 years later, this year, this election year, 2024, 100% of the black votes ain't swinging shit. So what's going to happen in 2028 when we got maybe 10% less marriages going on the way we have? We got 10% more baby mamaism. We got more poverty. We got, if we're still on the plantation by then, forget it. Right? I mean, we're not getting better. With all of this seeming success that some of us have had, we're not bringing enough people with us, because if our mentality stays the same, that our saviors lie with liberals, and thank goodness they went off the rails, because let me tell you, even the networks are starting to fire these ultra liberal people, and they're looking to bring some balance. You know why? Because they're doing it for money. They're actually thinking, holy shit, you know what? If we stay this way, we're not, the viewership for MSNBC, CNN, all of them things got cut in half, right? The lies that they were telling, all of that stuff. We are on the wrong side of this battle. You know what? And the funny thing about black folks, if you talk to them individually, they'll be the first to tell you we're not a monolith. Oh, we're not a monolith. We're not this. We're not that. But when it comes to voting, it comes to what side we are. We absolutely are a monolith. Because if we just giving our votes away to one party, we're a monolith. Because we're not only doing it at the top levels, we're probably doing it local level as well. So I just say, listen, I'm not a revolutionary from the standpoint that I'm old as hell. I'm getting there. But I've been through it all. I've been a lifelong Democrat voter, right? So I'm not I say everybody has to come to their own revelation. You do. I mean, I'm sounding real adamant here, but I'm not trying to get you off the plantation. You got to walk off yourself. Really do. Because then if you walk off yourself, you'll be more prone to stay off. If I have to drag you off and you're pulling and screaming to get back on, then we ain't doing each other no good. We're just becoming enemies. So anyway, that's what I have for Candace. And, so the real point of this is she said what she said today, and 5 years ago, she could have said last night. Right? She could have said last night. I have another video I want to show real quick, right on the heels of that. And it's going to be a real quick video, but it's an Instagram one. And so, the rules for that is a little different. Maybe if I could find it. Now listen to this, sister, because I kind of leaned into it, but she's going to say some things that are germane. And she says it in a blackety black kind of thing, but her words still, I think, still resonate.
Heavy, baby. Talk heavy. Play it so light.
And
you are an intelligent black man. You are the master of your own fate. The white man has been scared of you for years because of everything that is in your blood, that all you need to do is activate and you will become the captain, the man of whatever you set your mind to. For 400 years, we were held in captivity. We built this country for them, and they still expect us to pay taxes. And yet we've managed to thrive. They didn't have to do no work. They had 400 years of free labor. And we still have become millionaires and billionaires and this and that. Imagine if we actually really took that and put it to work. Imagine what you could do. Stop playing it so light. You're heavy. Talk heavy, baby.
All right. So see, the real point there is whether her delivery is one of the things is I think we have more power than we give ourselves credit for. I think we compete better than we give ourselves credit for. I really do. We actually do. We didn't get to where we are in Jim Crow with houses and families and stuff like that. We had shared pain, right? The feminists would have you believe that the women only stayed with men because they had to. Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with women needing to be covered by a man. The real lie is that all of those women were unhappy. So they had their kids and they did what the man did, brooding around the house like just broodmares. That's the goddamn lie. That's the lie of it all. That were there some bad marriages, they couldn't have been no worse than they are today. And that's just that's a whole nother ball of wax. But the point really is those marriages back then was what buffered the whole black experience in the United States, or else we would have been much worse, much faster. Because guess who was taking care of all those illegitimate children? Not the ones who were having them. Their mothers and their grandmothers. If they didn't have those homes and those infrastructure to put those babies in, they would have been on the street. So, put some respect on the old people's name for that, even though some of the messages that came down were obviously bad messages. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, so that's that. So the point I wanted to make is we got choices to make, right? Or the words coming. Listen, we have to know what our limitations are as individuals, right? Have you explored yours? Are you really a victim out there? Or are you doing all the things you need to do to get ahead? And then when you talk to yourself, what do you say to yourself? Who are you listening to? Because the wolf in sheep's clothing is whispering in your ear, you don't have what you have because of the man, for this, because of that. But if you're up on every episode of Law and Order, or in every episode of From or whatever else, that's time that could be well spent doing something else. If you haven't read a book in a while, those kind of things. What are you doing to find out where your limitations are? And then what are you doing to challenge those? How do you handle defeat? And how do you handle victory? These are the kind of things I think we're going to have to be thinking about in the future, because if you're looking at the news and what Trump is planning on doing, I can guarantee you some of the programs that people have gotten comfortable in the Black community, they're going away. And let me tell you, that all word about reparations, I just think it's good. It's just taking up empty space in your head. And I have my thoughts about the reparations, right? The lady said something that I thought was important. If we were to have reparations for me, it would be that our lives would be tax-free. No, hell with your check. To hell with the check. If we made a deal with the government for reparations, for me, it would have to be being tax-free at the federal level. That we don't pay taxes at the federal level. And the funny thing is, that's the kind of shit that those guys up at that level understand, because they spend millions of dollars trying to hide away from paying taxes. Anyway, but that's just another story. That's a whole nother thing. So what's DEI? What is DEI, right? Right. We all know the acronym: diversity, equity, inclusion. It refers to the practice of actively promoting and valuing the representation and participation of individuals from different backgrounds, identities, and perspectives, ensuring fair treatment. We'll come back to ensuring fair treatment and access to opportunities for all. This while creating an environment where everyone feels welcomed and respected. Okay. All right. So it's euphoria. It's euphoria, right? You can't ensure fair treatment for everybody because life isn't fair. You can't ensure that, right? You can't, you can have access to opportunities, but you can't have any guarantees of outcomes. And that's what equity kind of means to some of these people. The DEI, the only thing that I think has merit is the diversity part. And that depends on two things. Whether the diversity is mandated, that's where it's bad. But when diversity is organic because it has value, because it reaches more people, and if I had a business having diversity of ideas and efforts and things of that nature can reach more people than just a couple of stuffy white shirts somewhere selling a product to just a small part of the population. This is one of the places where I think Black-owned businesses make a mistake by saying that they're Black-owned, because the real deal is to sell your shit to everybody. Just to everybody, right? And inclusion, the way it's being used, is actually exclusionary. And we went through that when the Supreme Court justice was named. He said, I'm going to put a Black woman on the court. So you told every white woman, every Hispanic woman, every Asian woman, every white man, every Hispanic man, every Black man, everybody else but a Black woman that you are not included in this choice. How is that? How the hell is that something that's beneficial? How is that beneficial? Hey, what's going on, Trey? How you doing? Let me, I was going to play this thing, but I'm going to drop the link now because this is one of the things I wanted to do. This is where I wanted to drop. If I can get this thing. And hopefully this is the link. Yeah. Because I have a video to show, but I wanted to say that before on DEI because I want, we can open up the floor. Then I have some more stuff to go through for a little while, but that's the link for anybody who wants to come up. You got to be on camera these days. So I understand that. Let me get rid of this. All right. So anyway, listen, I have another video I want to show on DEI. And I want you to listen to this video because it says a couple of things. It talks about DEI from a couple of perspectives, when it's mandated and when it's organic. And see if you could tell the difference, and you can see which is more beneficial when they do it the right way. So where is it at? All right.
Equity and inclusion, or DEI, is a term you've probably heard quite a bit.
DEI.
And DEI.
DEI is representation. It's the number of people that you have in the organization that mirror the labor force availability.
The police killing of George Floyd and subsequent protests became a tipping point for companies across America. Fortune 1000 companies publicly acknowledged the importance of racial diversity, pledging $340 billion to promote change. But that is starting to change. The commitment to DEI appears to be wavering.
Squawk, Deere is pulling back from DEI measures.
Technology companies made big cuts to those DEI programs.
Lowe's is the latest company to roll back DEI efforts.
Major players have pulled back their initiatives amid growing conservative pressures, uncertain economic conditions, and a politicization of the practice.
Harley joins Tractor Supply Company and Polaris in scaling back or changing DEI policies following a campaign by activist Robbie Starbuck.
Well, there's a new player in the marketplace, and that is the conservative consumer who has woken up to the fact that many companies have divorced from the idea that customers are king.
But DEI advocates argue that this retreat may be overstated. Is it the normal ebb and flow of social initiatives, or is there a shift in corporate culture?
DEI is diversity, is representation. It's the number of people that you have in the organization that mirror the labor force availability.
When we're challenged with growth opportunities, we're often told to think bigger. You've got to think bigger. Well, You in and of yourself and your existing team in your existing structure can't think bigger without new perspectives. And that's what leading bigger is widening your perspective by including others.
Despite challenges.
All right, so we're going to continue. So you see what's going on here, right? The guy Starbucks is saying, people want to make sure that they're getting the best quality. Don't just give me DEI as a mandate and say you're doing me a favor if I don't get the things I want as a consumer. The truth of the matter is businesses also found out that when DEI is organic to their growth as a business and it's not mandated by quotas and bullshit, that there actually is some merit to having different people around the table. Now, that's where the future lies. And that's why people who might be completely afraid of Trump and saying we're going to whitewash the whole world and we're going to go back to the way it was before. Oh, my God. Listen, a lot of businesses out there, still relish to have different kind of people. I know some businesses, when they have a sales force, they might have some men in management, but as far as their sellers, depending on what the business is, it's just women. White women, black women, just women who know how to sell. Because if they get they know how to do it, there's opportunity there. Depending on where your target audience is, you can't just have, you got to look at a lot of different things. So your management could be one thing and your workforce could be another, or a mixture of all that stuff. So you can't say, I just want the people who look like me all around me. So that's just the way that is. So we're going to go ahead and continue and let's see where it goes. I think this was a really good video. I wanted to stop it anyway. So, fair use policy.
A 2024 study found 75% of U.S. executives highly prioritize DEI, and those executives are being more vocal about their support. In a letter to shareholders, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said that the initiatives are driving inclusivity, innovation, and stronger financial performance. And MasterCard's Chief Administrative Officer acknowledged the company's continued commitment to equality and fairness. Diversity among CEOs is also improving, with more women, Black, Asian, and Latino people occupying the position since 2019.
Over 70% of leaders choose proteges that are of the same race and gender. We like comfortable, we gravitate to comfortable, but what we have to realize in today's world and tomorrow's future, comfort means stagnation. It means a lack of change, a lack of forward movement.
So if you look around the room and everybody who's sitting there is a white male, and you're trying to sell products to a multiracial world marketplace, and you don't have anybody who represents that thinking, then you're probably not going to do very well in the marketplace.
DEI advocates point to several benefits, including improved innovation, recruitment, and company reputation.
We say we don't want to have people figure out how they fit in. We want to help people figure out how they stand out.
In 2023, more than 75% of companies in the S&P 500 use DEI metrics in the pay of CEOs and other C-suite executives. Still, less than half of U.S. corporate employees say their executive teams reflect the diversity of their employees in 2024. One of the problems with diversity initiatives is getting shareholders on board, especially when it is hard to translate to dollars.
Everything doesn't have to be quantitative. So we live in a society where if you can't count it, if you can't quantify it, then it doesn't matter.
And these are some of the sample metrics around the power of inclusion and inclusive workplaces. You've got over 70% more likelihood to generate revenue from innovation revenue, which is new products and services revenue. You have 70% more likelihood to capture new markets. You have a higher level of team performance. You have a higher level of collaboration. And importantly, given how critical talent is today, you have a much lower risk of attrition.
In recent years, DEI efforts have seen an uptick in pushback, and more than 100 bills have been introduced in 30 states aimed at restricting these initiatives. And some executives are increasingly wary of taking public stances on social issues, which could cause legal risks to businesses. 9 in 10 executives believe taking a public stance on a social issue is riskier than staying silent, according to one study.
It's a broader swath of Americans who are just sick of all the divisive woke stuff. They just want to be able to exist in the marketplace.
Recently, several...
All right, so yeah, we're going to go ahead with that. Listen, we got a great example of a company that fed into wokeism and DEI to the extent that it destroyed or nearly destroyed a multi-billion-dollar operation. And that's Marvel when they were bought by Disney. Disney is in the process of destroying everything with DEI and wokeism and all of this representation bullshit that they're into, right? And it's an overreach, right? So it's completely unorganic or inorganic. And that's where the problem lies, because what they did was put diversity over storyline, diversity over, some kind of equality of outcome. And then they actually had certain stereotypes that they started to push. Like if they had a black man, he's the biggest brutish guy, but he's tongue kissing another man, that kind of stuff. So I'm just trying to tell you, it's a thin line between, it's not a thin line. The line is really bright. I should have said it that way. If it's a forced mandate, that shit doesn't really work. But if it's organic to your business model, then there's some initiatives there that you don't have to have anybody tell you what to do. It's just, it helps your bottom line because you know it.
Several major publicly traded companies and household names, including Tractor Supply, John Deere, Harley-Davidson, Ford, and Lowe's, scaled back their DEI policies.
As we look down that list of most trusted brands by conservatives in America, we realized they all had these policies, and they were all opposed to the fundamental values and tenets and beliefs of conservative consumers.
Robbie Starbuck has over 1 million followers across his social media platforms and has been able to galvanize conservative consumers.
So there's a real financial incentive for companies to look and take very seriously what we're saying and pull back where it's appropriate to pull back.
More people now have permission to be, quote, anti-DEI. And I think that for those organizations, they probably were already only doing it because they felt it was the socially acceptable thing to do. So they really weren't doing it because they saw this as a critical aspect of their business success.
U.S. companies spend an average of $8 billion a year on DEI. Training can be costly, ranging from a couple $1,000s to well over $1 million, depending on company size.
The DEI departments at large have cost quite a bit of money and have borne very little fruit.
The budgets are definitely.
Every time they show Starbucks, I like to stop it because I was working still. And a lot of you might still be working in corporate. One of the biggest problems they have with some of these DEI classes is that they victimize white people, victimize minorities and special groups, and demonize white folks in the way that those courses are presented. A lot of them. I mean, that's like a constant retort in a lot of these classes. So people come out of it with not learning anything, but they come out of it with resentment because of the way some of these classes were fashioned, right? So again, we got to be careful on how we train things as well. So I just think that I don't necessarily agree with Starbucks because he seems like a scorched earth kind of guy, but he's got a big business he's running. I believe he's a Starbucks family guy.
Being cut. We do find that in this era where there's so much backlash, we do find that organizations' budgets, have been cut.
Although business leaders are supporters of DEI initiatives, shareholders and board members are far less likely to prioritize it.
The board has a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders. These boards are understanding that when we reach out to their company, that there is proof already in the marketplace that we move the markets. And I don't want to destroy any businesses. I want to help restore the heart and soul of corporate America, which is the idea that the consumer is king.
All right, we can stop it there. So you guys see where that's coming from. I just think that's we got to kind of know where we're going with this. So we are going to be living in a different way. We're not going to be using the word DEI the way it meant before. The companies that are going to still embrace some form of diversity, you'll have to kind of search those companies out. And then the companies who are going to resist it, they may go out of business, depending on where they are, and what kind of business model they're trying to follow. So I don't think we should panic. I just think we need to get our head different than what it is before. And that means we need to be able to be open enough to vote differently. And I asked a question before, and I didn't get any answers, or unless I might have missed them in the chat. Would any of you admit that your success today is based on some DEI initiative, or did you merit it? Or did you win a competition? Or did you, go for a promotion and you had, real competition? They didn't just say, okay, you're black or you're a woman, so we're going to give you the job. So if you don't want to say anything now, just think about that. I mean, don't sell yourself short, right? Because probably most of you might be in a position because you actually merited being in that position. And if somebody came to you and said you're a DEI hire, you'd probably get mad. So all I'm just trying to say, how do you play this off in your mind? That's all I'm trying to tell you. And what does that say to us not being fluid enough to say, you know what, maybe we should be more issue-based voters. Maybe the things that we look for in life shouldn't be based on the color of our skin at all. When's the last time we just thought of ourselves just as Americans, that everything that America has to offer, we actually should be a part of. Some of it we actually deserve. We pay taxes, right? We follow the law. We expect to be protected. We expect to be able to pay our bills, have fair trade. We expect these things because we're American, not because we're black. And when we don't get those things, then we have the right to be mad about them. But we have to be careful on why we might not get some stuff, because, hey, the infrastructure is falling apart. There's a lot of people not getting what they think they have earned, regardless of the color of their skin. And another thing we have to also realize is that it ain't always about us. Everything that happens ain't always about us. It really isn't. That's just me talking. Of course, I got more clips. And of course, I need to hit y'all with this one clip from a guy you all know. And you guys tell me after this clip if anybody wants to come up and talk about it, whether he's right or wrong, whether he's on point. And it's something we've already heard, because I think it's the mindset that we need to move, gain. And there's all kinds of different mindsets. I just think we need to actually have a mindset that is off the plantation. It doesn't mean you can't like some Democratic policies or some Democrat policies or some Republican policies. It just means that they shouldn't be able to take your vote for granted any longer. That's all I'm saying. We need to make sure that anything we give somebody, they earned. They earned it from us because they have something in it that we could actually tangibly feel, giving us something we could feel. All right, so here's my next clip. And I'm going to just go through the clips, since, and then when anybody comes up, we could talk about them. All right. It's everybody's favorite, Anton Daniels.
At what point, because I said something the other day and I didn't realize I said it until I rewatched myself. And I'm going to be reading Super Chat shortly. At what point do we separate ourselves instead of trying to reparate ourselves? Just curious. I think that was a bar. We don't need reparations. We need separation. Do you realize that the reason why overwhelmingly Black people are at the bottom when it comes to our socioeconomic status, when it comes to our networking status, when it comes to how it is that people stereotype us and our overcoming of those stereotypes as a result of the people that came before us that made it so bad for us to be able to walk through the door? I don't blame, honestly, hold on. I don't blame people for looking at me funny when I sit down at the restaurant in anticipation of me not tipping, even though this is an American culture. I don't blame them. You know why? Because every single server that I know, including the Black ones, overwhelmingly women, some men, say that they know and that people fight not to take their tables because they already know that the overwhelming majority, not all, but the overwhelming majority of people are not going to tip. I don't blame people when I walk around in a hoodie, and I largely only am wearing a hoodie intentionally, knowing specifically where I'm going to go. And I'm very, very careful about not putting the hoodie on, depending on where it is that I'm operating, because I understand people's apprehension when they may see me walking down the street, because of the people that came before me in yesteryear have already given the impression to be aware or be very, very careful of this person. I'm very careful often at times to even speak first when I'm walking into the room. I initiate the conversation in order to disarm the people and letting them know, yes, I can speak proper English. And no, I don't smell like weed when I come in every single place that I go into, right? Including a professional environment, including a job interview. The last time that somebody sent me a message and they said, Anton, can you get me in? And I said, send me your resume. And then I put a few touches on it and I made some modifications, even though I told them to update their resume and they failed to do it. But we still had a formality and I had already set them up with the interview. So I had to make sure that their resume was done for them. And then when they came in, you know what they were smelling like? This is me throwing an alley-oop. Yo, fam, come get this $100,000. Throw it in the air. I'm Dwayne Wade. I'm about to throw you your LeBron pass. And they coming in and slamming it. Nope. They came in smelling like weed. Hair was unbrushed, breath smelling like a piece of shit. And so they came in and they embarrassed me. And I made up in my mind that day that I'm no longer going to align myself with people based off of what it is that they look like or things that they can't control, but I'm going to substantiate how it is that I'm aligning with people based off of the direction that they're going in. It's not going to be off of color. It's going to be 100% based off of character. And that's why I rock out with the bag chasers. Link to the Patreon is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. At what point do you realize that you are literally selling yourself at a discount rate? I'll give you an example. Let's bring it back to the money. All right. I'm going to break down what culture is and how it is that people see you as a nigga, not a black person. They see you as a nigga. I'm going to help you out. A lot of y'all talk about redlining. Have you ever asked yourself the question as to why they look at it as redlining or why they started to assess?
Let me stop it right there. We'll get back to it for a second because he said a few things, and let's get to it. Who's this? BMU? Oh, I don't know what he just popped in there. I don't know. You coming on the stream? Anyway, hey, what's going on, 18? How you doing? And this, yeah, right. We got to do better. So, yeah, I know there's some language that my man's using, but I wanted to stop it for a second anyway, because he's going to get into this to what he's going to get into. But so far, I haven't heard anything my man said that I think that he's wrong about. And this is the stuff that, and this has said it better right here. Even just a couple of words. We all have to do better, right? We all can. I think that's the deal. We can do better, and we're gonna have to do better because when they tighten the belt on some of the waste that's going on, and some of the things that's going on, they're not going to be targeting us as black. We just don't want to be caught in the net, right? We just don't want to be caught in the net. That's the deal. You want to make sure that you have your stuff in order, and it's just small things that we need to take listen. If you're younger, you're in your 30s, your 40s, you might have to learn new skills, right? You might have to learn whatever you might have to learn. It's all at your fingertips, because if you have a phone, you have you have access to all the information you need to get you to where you need to go. And so here's what I would suggest. Listen to what these guys are saying, what Trump is saying, because he came out with his initiative against the Transformers for children. He came out with some stuff for education. He came out for some stuff for the border. and you just got to go look it up. Yeah, bringing back some more Christian values, things of that nature. You know, where people don't get canceled for mentioning Christmas like they started to do, that kind of stuff. Let me take this down. You know, so I would say listen to them and then try to bounce where your life is at based on the direction of where these guys want to go. Do you see what I'm saying? And see, yeah, what's going on, Ebony? That's my daughter just came home from work. You know what I'm saying? So you always want to measure yourself to see how you are living based on maybe some of these changes that are coming down. Right? That's one of the things that we can do. You don't need to have a whole lot more money. You know where you are now. And if you don't have a good handle on where you fit right now in your life, then it's time to do that. What's not in order? What can you put in order? You know, where you can, just start to better your life. What's out there? It's not going to go away. I just think that when the government becomes more efficient, hopefully it'll pass. If we don't have to go to another war and we get a peace dividend, some way, shape, form, or fashion, how do you benefit from that? That's what I'm thinking. You know, so it's a new day and age. I think the corporate organizations are telling you that all of these liars from the liberal media, they're all trying to make mid-course corrections now, not for altruism's sake, because they know if they continue down the path that they're on down to Trump as the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, they're going to lose money big time. Big time. So there's time to take advantage of what's coming and not to be consider yourself a victim of it. It's time to take advantage of it, right? That's a different mindset than the plantation mindset. If you're a liberal Democrat on the plantation, all you hear over these airways is how women and everybody's going to be a victim of the Trump era. Where? Why? Where? What's the evidence of that? Show me the evidence of that. We already had 4 years of this guy. You know, so I don't know. Just think differently. So let's go ahead and get a little bit more through another 3 minutes of Anton. I can't pay it all the way through fair use.
The value of that property lower based off of the color of your skin. You think that they don't like you? That's not true. That's not true. In 2023, it ain't based off of that. It's a reason why they have to drive by the neighborhood multiple different times throughout the day, throughout the week, at night, just to make sure that they not getting sold a bag of goods that a lemon. They don't want a lemon. I'm going to break down to you from a business perspective why they look at you as inferior or less than. When I talk to people, for example, and they say, Anton, I want to get into information technology. And I say, okay, cool. What part of information technology are you interested in? And they say, well, I want to be a software engineer, or I want to be a cybersecurity professional. And I say, good job. I'm with that. Let me go through and break down exactly what it is that you need to do in order to be successful. This is what you want to do when you want to put together a 3-year plan and then a 5-year plan. And then you can work after the 2 years when you get your associate's degree in order to continue to have your job pay for your bachelor's degree once you start to get the other 2 years and you transfer so that you can remove the debt and you could just go to community. They say, no. What you talking about, Anton? What you talking about, Anton? I said, I thought you said you wanted to be a software engineer. Nah, I was thinking about this 3-week boot camp that I can go through. And then we can go ahead and try to get to that bag because I want to be where you at right now in 3 weeks. And I'll be like, now, can they get a job? Absolutely. Will they know anything? Is a possibility that they're going to get fired? Or are they really going to learn how to really code within 3 weeks? Probably not. Probably not. But let me tell you what happens from a corporate perspective when we see people that have no real work history, that have no understanding of what it is that they're going to do. We're going to possibly have to train them and all of this stuff. Let me tell you what happens when you take a shortcut. You get a shortcut. No. You missed it. Slow it down. I just dissed you. Shout out to my dogs over there at the URL. You get a shortcut. When you take shortcuts, you get a short cut. You're the first person out the door. You're the one that's going to make the least amount of money when you come in. You just happy to be there, not even understanding that you're going to be at the bottom of the totem pole. And it's the same situation that we sitting here having a conversation with about Ja Morant. The owners are looking forward to him fucking up. Are they going to kick him out of the league? Absolutely not. You know why? Because he's too talented. And when I see you, I'm looking at you right now. When I see you, when I see your son, fuck you. Because you already gonna fuck up. We know what you gonna do. We know that there are 6 dislikes on this live stream, and there's some dusties that's watching this right now. We know what you gonna do, right? We know you gonna fuck up. Let me talk to your son real quick. When I see your son, you know what I see? I see a dude that I'm not gonna have to pay full rate because I know that he's not gonna do what he need to do in order to be able to get there. I see a man that is incredibly talented, has all of the capability to be one of the great ones, can work himself all the way up into being at the top of corporate America, can be a superstar in anything that he wants to be. He can be an architect. He can be a cybersecurity professional. He can wind up becoming a CEO. And you do understand that most CEOs have a sales and an engineer background, right? But instead of that, what he has is somebody that's leading him, that's telling him that you have to take a shortcut in order to be successful. It's no reason for you to go to college. College doesn't mean anything, even though we've already understood statistically based that if you go to a STEM field, you're going to make significantly more, 7 figures more over your lifetime. And there's ways for you to be able to do it. I do review videos on how you can get the scholarships. I show you how it is that I did it in order for you to be successful.
All right, so we can stop. You get the point there, right? The short of it all is the mindset. You know, what is your mindset? You know, going forward. That's really what it's all about. You know, and I have a feeling that we've been trained to take to think that we're less than as a group and we need this help to get by. You know, we need shortcuts. We need aid. And I'm not saying help or mentors. I'm not talking about that. Everybody's good to have a mentor, somebody who's been through it, and that you're a willing student to hear what they have to say to help you navigate the minefields. That I'm not talking about. Those are good things. But so was Anton lying about anything? No. Right? So if we go back to the voting chart, and I don't need to show it to you, you guys know what it looks like, where you see our bars in blue almost to 100%. You could make correlations to the whole community, right? Because we're thinking monolithically that we need some fictitious liberal guy in a sheep's clothing to help us out. But if we had similar charts in marriage and broken marriage rates, I bet you it would be the worst in the Black community. If we had charts that were similar about education across the diaspora, I bet you it'd be worse in the Black community. If we talk about crime and incarceration in the Black America, I bet you our charts would be worse in the Black community, right? You know, if we talked about sexually transmitted diseases, I bet you our charts would be worse in the Black community. If we talk about baby or mamarism or daddyism, it would be, you know, extreme in the Black community, et cetera, right? So it's hard for me to accept that the fact that we're monolithic in the way we vote is not just a vote, it's the mindset that goes along with that. And with that comes all of these bad things. And we need to break that. That's why I'm saying not getting off the plantation just as a figure of speech. We need to get off the plantation and move in a different direction, right? We know that when slavery ended, a certain portion of slaves didn't leave the plantation because they didn't know where they thought they had nowhere to go. And they would never, their dreams had been dashed. So they didn't say, shit, if I ever got off of here, I'd do X, Y, and Z. And you could kind of understand that. But I think mentally we're in the same spot now, right? My brother's mad at me because I said that he's still on a plantation. I said, well, don't get mad. I said, I was just there a couple of years ago myself. I'm off now. And I'm not even telling you to get off. I'm just saying, hey, listen, just realize that you're still on it. You know, and if you're comfortable there, then, you know, that's fine. He's older than me, so he's retired. He ain't worrying about the future as much, even though I think he wants to live forever. And he's in great shape, so he might. So, but the point really is, you know, how do we begin? I think it's one person at a time. We got a small army brewing of men, 1.5 million men who've decided that, here's what I want to say. Let me kind of segue. For every man in the chat out there, isn't it refreshing to hear on the media how important we were to this last election? Just what we thought. Whether our numbers really changed anything or not, just the fact that every news outlet, every celebrity, everybody was coming after, not after us, trying to admonish us, trying to say how important our vote was, how, that nobody gives us shit. And, if now you better start respecting black men. I mean, how many times have you heard black men on TV, other than some pejorative, in the last 10 years? I mean, black men this, black men that, black men this was coming off people's lips everywhere. Everywhere. Just with a mere 21% of us saying, you know what, this far and no further. Women, you want to stay on the plantation? I'll find me some other kind of woman. I don't need that. I don't need this bullshit. Right? Men, you want to stay on the plantation because you still sucking off your mommy's tit? Stay there. Stay there. Or the alternative, get off the plantation and help us change our community from the bottom up and reshape it, because there's no going back to the whole community. It's gone. It's absolutely gone. It's gone. Our culture is gone. Like I said, when's the last time we heard a nice love song to a woman and said, I don't mind singing it because she deserves it. I mean, it's just, anyway, I don't want to keep going, but one of the things I said, I showed it already. We should think more independent minded. I got one more video. I got two more videos, but one that has to do with this directly with what we're seeing. And it's an interchange between this brother, Coleman Hughes, and the dreaded, absolutely hateful Sonny Holston on The View. And the thing she said to this man, there's a couple of things to take away from it. But his demeanor in being able to calmly dissect her bullshit is something that every man should take some lessons from, because he's kind of a mild-mannered kind of guy, but she said some shit to him that some guys would have lost it big time, But anyway, without further ado, let's get to that part. And it's funny that nobody wants to come up, but I don't mind rattling off the gems. I hope I'm helping you. I hope I'm giving you guys something, and I appreciate y'all being here. And make sure you hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. All right. So let me go ahead and share that, because I cut the first part of it up because it's the dialogue between him and Whoopi, but we don't need to hear that part. I'm gonna start off with a bang, Come on. Uh-huh.
Not my question, but when you say that socioeconomics picks out people in a better way than race, when you do look at the socioeconomics, you see the huge disparity between white households and Black households. You see the huge disparity between white households and Hispanic households. So your argument, and I've read your book twice because I wanted to give it a chance, your argument that race has no place in that equation is really fundamentally flawed, in my opinion.
Well, there's two separate questions. One is whether each racial group is socioeconomically the same. That I agree with you. They're not.
Yeah, they're
course.
not, and the
The
stats
question
show
is-
that.
But of course, I agree with that fully. The question is, how do you address that in the way that actually targets poverty the best?
Great.
And what Martin Luther King wrote in his book, Why We Can't Wait, is he called it, we need a Bill of Rights for the disadvantaged. And he said, yes, we should address racial inequality. Yes, we should address the legacy of slavery. But the way to do that is on the basis of class. And that will disproportionately target Blacks and Hispanics because they're disproportionately poor, but it will be doing so in a way that also helps the white poor, in a way that addresses poverty as the thing to be addressed.
That part is true, but as you are a student of Dr. King, I'm not only a student of Dr. King, I know his daughter, Bernice, right? So I'm going to get to my question.
Go ahead, go right ahead.
I think the premise is fundamentally flawed. You claim that color blindness was the goal of the civil rights movement, based upon Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, content of character versus the color of skin. Bernice, Dr. King's daughter, points out that 4 years after giving that speech, actually, Dr. King also said this: a society that has done something special against the Negro for hundreds of years must now do something special for Negroes. He also said in 1968, it was about less than a week before he was assassinated, this country never stops to realize that they owe a people kept in slavery for 244 years. So rather than class, he did write about that earlier on. Right before his death, he made the argument for racial equality and racial reparations. And so your argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the Black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted for a Republican.
You've said that you're...
Let me stop it right there. So let me just stop it right there. We got a special guest in the chat. Okay, I can't imagine her saying that to Trey Taylor on national TV. Oh my God, Trey, how would you have handled her calling you a charlatan, man? Holy shit, man! I mean, or me, or anybody. And before we start again, what I wanted to emphasize is how calm my man stayed in the bullshit that this lady's talking. First of all, Sonny Holston is starting to wane, but she suffers from, and I'm using the word suffer, she suffers from pretty privilege. Because I don't know what kind of guilt complex that put in her head, that she has to be such an asshole when she talks. Because my man's explanation, my man's explanation of attacking poverty based on class lines as opposed to individuals, special interest groups, makes all the sense in the world, right? And if we did things like that, we might get somewhere because nobody's being left out. You're solving a real problem across the diaspora and not for just one group or the other. And so she said he's a plant, and we'll let him finish. And then calling him a charlatan. Oh my God, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's particularly that bad. I mean, it's horrible. But I don't know if she would have called somebody different, a different kind of man that. I don't know. Maybe it's his demeanor that gave her the leeway of just being able to say that shit so freely. Unbelievable. She's just the worst. She's the worst. Oh my God.
You're a conservative.
No, no.
No, you did. You actually said that in a podcast that you did 2 weeks ago.
I said I was a conservative.
Yes, you did. So, but my question to you is, how do you respond to those critics?
Okay, let's give it. Let him answer. Yes,
First thing I think it's very important. The quote that you just pointed out about doing something special for the Negro. That's from the book Why We Can't Wait that I just mentioned.
Yes.
A couple paragraphs later, he lays out exactly what that something special was.
Yes.
And it was the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged, a broad class-based policy.
But he also says you must include race.
No, he didn't. He says it's
Yes, he does.
Okay, well, everyone should go read the book Why We Can't Wait. Let's not get sidetracked by that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been co-opted by anyone. I've only voted twice, both for Democrats. Although I'm an independent, I would vote for a Republican, probably a non-Trump Republican if they were compelling. I don't think there's any evidence I've been co-opted by anyone, and I think that's an ad hominem tactic people use to not address really the important conversations we're having here. And I think it's better, and it would be better for everyone if we stuck to the topics rather than make it about me with no evidence.
But I want to give you the opportunity to respond to the
I appreciate
the criticism.
I appreciate it. There's no evidence that I've been co-opted by anyone. I have an independent podcast. I work for CNN as an analyst. I write for the Free Press. I'm independent in all of these endeavors, and no one is paying me to say what I'm saying. I'm saying it because I feel it.
Alyssa, you have the question.
Coleman, thanks for being here. So in the past decade, it feels like racial tensions have gotten worse. Do you see it that way, and what do you attribute it to?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at all the data, it finds that race relations were getting better until about 2013. That year, you had majority of Black, Hispanic, and white Americans saying race relations were good, and then you just see it nosedive. And 2013, people like to blame, Republicans like to blame Obama. Wasn't his fault. Democrats like to blame Trump. It was actually just technology. We all got social media and smartphones, and we had videos being promoted in the algorithm that were unrepresentative, and it created this impression that racism was on the rise when in fact it had been on the decline for decades.
And it
Do you
allowed
attribute that at all to foreign actors getting involved in technology?
Yes, Russia tries to meddle, absolutely, but I don't think we can blame foreign actors. This is a homegrown problem.
Okay, I have a question, because you write that the anti-racism movement, there are a couple of people, I don't even know who they are, maybe
Robin DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo,
Yeah.
Ibram Kendi, for instance.
Okay. Well, you say that is just another form of racism, and you even say it has a lot in common with white supremacy. How can you compare those two things? You talk about anti-racism, you're comparing it to white supremacy.
Because they both view your race as an extremely significant part of who you are. So white supremacists, they obviously say, we all know what they say, okay? Neo-racists like Rob DiAngelo, they say that to be white is to be ignorant, for example. Well, this is a racial stereotype, and I want to call a spade and say this is not the style of anti-racism we have to be teaching our kids. We should be teaching them that your race is not a significant feature of who you are. Who you are is your character, your value, and your skin color doesn't say anything about that.
All right, so let me just stop it on that point too, because we've been playing it. And I think this is a question for Black people in general. One, maybe it's because we call ourselves Black people, but I mean, white people, I don't know. What do they call themselves white people? I don't know. We get hung up on the term. But when was the last time you viewed yourself just as an American, regardless of your race? You know what I'm saying? I mean, even in this election, it was pivotal. Well, the truth of the matter is men in general rebelled against the Harris regime and what the Democrats were doing. But I think it was mostly sparked by Black men because pretty much everybody thinks we're pussies following our women. And so when you see a certain amount of Black men saying, you know what, we ain't following them down this rabbit hole no more. And so it stood out a little bit more. And it needs to stand out a whole lot more. It needs to double in the next 4 years, if not triple. And it really doesn't matter if the women come or not. It matters, but it doesn't. It shouldn't matter to the men moving. It would matter to us if we have to rebuild the community. But none of the things that we do in the future should be predicated on how the women in the Black community move anymore. It just shouldn't, because they're not the leaders. And I'm not talking about trivial shit like, you're the leader, so you should pay all my rent. No. I'm saying the way we move shouldn't be predicated on them telling us how to move. That's the deal. And I think this election kind of showed that there's a whole bunch of men who were willing to lose family members, willing to be estranged from a random girlfriend, and all that kind of stuff to say, you know what, I'm no longer just voting for the Democrats because I don't see anything in it for me and for us or building a community, those kind of things. And this guy, as meek as he is, he's not, he says he's not a conservative, but he's on to something. I don't believe in colorblindness, but I do believe that it shouldn't matter on how you deal with people. But one of the points that he's making is how we move through life shouldn't be predicated on our skin color. And I think we're coming into that era here in America where we have to consider that, and then this is one of the reasons why Sonny Holston is so frustrating, because in all accounts, she's a privileged chick. She's a privileged chick talking all this shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, stop it. Just stop the bullshit. Anyway.
Actually misrepresenting what Robin DiAngelo's position is.
It's in her book.
But here we go. Here we go.
Thank you, Coleman Hughes, for coming, because this is a show of lots of different opinions, and we are multi-generational, and we all got an opinion. So the end of race politics, arguments for a colorblind America, is out now, and we're giving it to you all so you can read it.
All right, actually, I read the book, and I have it. I have it on tape as well, or audio, and I have the hard copy. But anyhow, listen, I'm just saying, I thought that was a good segment, and I think it fits in what the narrative that we're talking about here is, that our mindset has to move forward, because hopefully we're not going backwards anymore. And one of the things I have confidence in is that us as Black people, I'm telling you, I think we're up for it. Whatever challenge is out there, I think I don't see us not being able to excel. I really don't. I mean, like I said, I don't think I'm anything special. Shit. I just did some shit because I had to. I wanted to move. And most of you guys who listen to this show or any other show on Black Man Unfiltered, there's people here who just say, listen, you know what? I want a better life for myself, my family, and, the people around me, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that part of that thinking has to take over any of the thinking of Victor. We're not going to always win. You're not going to always win. And when you lose, you don't have to manufacture anything that's wrong. Sometimes you lose just because the other guy was better. So I'm saying, if we look forward to the future, what's a couple of things we need to do? One, we need to be prepared for it. Right? The safety net is going away. It's going to be stripped away in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So we need to be prepared as people for the future. Whatever, everybody, it's not all the same. Everybody's starting from a different place, but we need to be prepared for the future. Hey, what's going on, dirty folks? What's happening, man?
Man, I tuned in, man. I'm liking your show. You're my favorite boomer. And my dad's still alive, and you're still my favorite boomer.
You got to come on camera, man. I can't put you on the back.
Man, I don't even know. Hold on, man. I'm on
All right. All right, so whenever you're ready, just let me know. I gotta follow the rules. Anyway, so listen, you gotta be prepared. And whatever that prep is for you, personally, do it. Just get started. And don't be thinking of how insurmountable it is. Just move one step at a time, whatever that might be. If it's education, if it's getting your money right, if it's paying down the bills, you just need to get started. If it's reading a book, it's learning how to money manage, it's correcting a bad relationship with your honey or man, just do what you got to do to get yourself prepared, because the safety nets are going away. And for men, we already know we don't have a safety net. So women, for some of you, some of the mistakes you've made, you could come back from. Some of them, it's going to be tough. Okay. And we must be, the second thing is we got to be unafraid of what that change might be, because change is coming. And staying on the plantation of the Democrats ain't going to save you. They're doing their best to replace you. It's right under your nose. They're bringing them in by the millions from other countries. You think they're doing that shit out of the goodness of their heart? They're putting them in your neighborhoods. They're using your tax dollars to fund them and feed them. And in 4 or 5 years, their plan was to have those guys replace you as their swing voters. Because now they got all the proof they need that your votes alone ain't getting them over the hump. The data, the numbers don't lie. They don't. If I'm this dog shit stupid engineer can figure that shit out by doing a few charts, you don't think that think tank people know about that? That holy shit, even if 100% of these jigaboos voted for us, we would have still lost. And don't think they think anything more. They might not say that out loud, but what do you think they're thinking about you? Now that they still need you as a buffer, but not as a primary element, what do you think that means? You figure that out. Okay. Identify and challenge your limitations, whatever they are, right? One of the greatest lines of Clint Eastwood, a man and woman got to know what his limitations are. Because only then you could know how to stretch your boundaries. You got to know where you're uncomfortable and then step into that shit. That's another one, right? Here's another one. Try an experiment. I don't know how to do this. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or whatever. Try to do this. Try to look at yourself solely as an American. Just as an American, not a Black American, not this African American, not all this shit. Try to look at yourself, I don't know, do it for an hour, a day. What if I was just an American? What does that mean to you? Am I not part of the party because Donald Trump has 10, 20 white people around him in his cabinet? Does that mean he's not really going to do anything that's going to benefit us as Black people in the future, because it's not directly with a big letter Black? This is what Black people wanted. But if he raises the votes in all of America, aren't we going to benefit from that? If there's jobs out there, if there's money for a peace dividend, if there's grants to cheaper colleges, bringing down the endowments from the other colleges, making sure they play fair, and we're going to benefit from that. I'm just saying, this is something for you guys to figure out. I'm not saying you can't be blackity black and all that, but there's a place to be blackity black. But in the meantime, even the blackity blacks are taking advantage of being American, because you wouldn't even be able to say half the shit that they say if they weren't here. Anyway, so that's one. And, I have another. There's a whole list. You make your own list. The last one is, be excited about the future. Be excited that this woke bullshit is dying. That you can say what you really mean without being canceled and fired from your job. Michael Strahan just had this thing where he forgot or just wasn't thinking. He didn't put his hand over his heart, right? He didn't put his hand over his heart, and they wanted him to be fired from his job. Or the kicker from Kansas City goes to a Christian college and tells women, you know what? Besides being a CEO, I can't wait to see what kind of wives and mothers you're going to be. They try to get him kicked off They try to get him kicked off of the Kansas City Chiefs as he's one of the best kickers in the country. Instead, he got a record contract. So this wokeism bullshit is coming to an end. Mark Zuckerberg's admission that the liberals and the government try to silence social media is huge. And the fact that nobody really talks about that is scary, because they really squashed a lot of information that probably would have changed the outcome of the election, because they took the choice away from the people by hiding information. Anyway, so listen, I put my list of things out there, and then I have one more video for you before we call it quits for the night. And listen, need to be prepared for the future. You must be unafraid. Identify and challenge your limits. Look at yourself as an American. Just experiment doing that and be excited about the future. It may change something, it may not. And it's my little dumb list. Like, I know what I'm talking about, but it sounded good to me, so I'm offering that to you. Anyway, so the last video I'm going to show you, and I'm going to talk about it when we go. Just bear with me. Let's stop sharing this one. And I got something for you, and just stick around, and I'd appreciate it. Like that. Now, there's no copyright situation with this because I own it all. And so we don't have to worry about that. All right. All right, so we're going to play this. Let me get it started. Let me just tell you. So I found this tool that generates AI music, okay? And I think it's pretty cool. So you put a few words in there, you do some mumbo jumbo, and it writes a song for you. And so I think it's really cool that way. So let me kind of get this started, and I'm going to stop it in a second. All right. That was me in pre-Shrek days right there. And I want to tell you guys that guy right there, if wait a minute, hold on, somebody must have popped up. Let me see who popped up. Yeah, dirty folks, man. Listen, I'm on a home stretch. You're gonna have to listen in, but before I get started, I'm gonna let you say a couple of things, man, since you're here. Can I see where you at? Let me see. Let me fix this. What's going on, man? Can you hear me? Oh, I don't know if you're frozen or not, man. I can't hear you, brother. You might have to go out and come back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I barely hear you. Say something.
Looks like it's showing up. I'm gonna come out and come back in.
Yeah, you know what? Do me a favor. Come back in. I want to play these videos. You come back in on the back end. Anyway, everybody's listening. Listen, if you can get your woman to look at you the way she's looking at me, then you know that you're her number one choice. But I got a lot of people telling me, listen, you don't know nothing about dating in today's market. And I don't argue that anymore. However, that guy right there, if I was transported in a hot tub time machine to today, I would use the same strategy today that I used to find that woman back then. The only thing that would be different is that it would be a whole lot more women that I would have to step over to find her. That's it. I wouldn't have changed a thing. I wouldn't have compromised a thing. I would have did the same thing. Even today, I would have just stepped through a whole bunch of different chicks. So with that, I said, well, you know what? How come nobody makes music for women anymore? So I did something for my honey based on what she means to me. And I'm going to play that for you guys. It's short, a couple of minutes. It's called Sunshine, My Muse.
When the morning light breaks through, I find my heart belongs to you. With every glance, you steal the show. Oh, the magic in your glow. Through the trials and years that we've seen, your smile holds the power to turn to serene. You are my sunshine, my sweet wife and muse. Those dimples dancing, I can't refuse. Every smile you share, a radiant spark in your laughter's embrace. I find my heart. In a world that can feel so gray, you painted colors bright in the day. Those little marks of joy, so divine. With each laugh, love grows intertwined. In the warmth of your eyes and the joy you reveal, you make every moment beautifully real. You are my sunshine, my sweet wife and muse. Those dimples dancing, I can't refuse. Every smile you share, a radiant spark in your laughter's embrace. I find my heart. In a world of your eyes and the joy you reveal, you make every moment beautifully real. You are my sunshine, my sweet wife and muse. Those dimples dancing, I can't refuse. Every smile you share, a radiant spark in your laughter's embrace. I find my heart. So here's to you, my love, my wife and life. Dimples and smiles that make everything right. You are my sunshine, my sweet wife and muse. Those dimples dancing, I can't refuse. Every smile you share, a radiant spark in your laughter's embrace. I find my heart.
All right, so this is what I'm saying. We need to bring back everlasting love. And I don't think we can possibly get there with 90% of our people still on a Democrat plantation, feminists, all the anything goes liberalism, free sex, barter system, transactional stuff, deletions, all that stuff. We need to bring back everlasting love. Now, whether that's marriage or not, it might be different these days. But we can't just keep passing each other around, especially if we're going to have children. You know what I'm saying? So that's me. That's just my little thing. Can't make anybody do it, but I just thought I'd throw that out there, that there's still a few of us dinosaurs out there. However, there's a lot of people, there's still enough people getting married in America. They just don't say anything because maybe they're worried about how long it's going to last. I don't know. I got one more for you guys, but I got it for all the sisters out there who want to get off the plantation but scared, and the ones who are off. I have something for you too. Now, this one is another one. I put in natural beauty and real precious natural beauty. And I just put that to this particular picture. But listen to the words to this song. And somebody asked 21 Savage, how come you guys don't make any love songs to the women? He says, man, all those B&Hs, who wants to sing to them? Now, not that he's any great shakes, but he's getting quoted everywhere. And it's true. When's the last time we had a balladeer talking about love music to a woman or anything good about the sisters? And you know what? It's like they don't care about it. If it ain't ratchet, it doesn't sell. But this one is called Precious Soul. And I want y'all to listen to the words. And, you know, hey, man, AI is a special thing.
In the morning light you shine like a diamond in the sky, so divine. Nature's brush, a gentle hand, painting beauty across this land. Through the storms and darkest nights, your light a beacon, always bright. Oh, precious grace flows like a river in every heartbeat. You always deliver with every whisper of the breeze. You dance among the autumn leaves. Your laughter echoes through the trees, a melody that sets us free. In the twilight glow you reveal the real magic that we can feel. In the tapestry of life so rare, a real precious soul beyond compare. Oh, precious grace flows like a river in every heartbeat. You always deliver with every whisper of the breeze. You dance among the autumn leaves. So here's to you in all you do. Natural beauty, so pure and true. Oh, precious, your grace flows like a river. In every heartbeat, you always deliver.
All right. She is a nice looking woman, ain't she? Anyway, folks, I know Dirty Folks said he want to try to get on, but I had to do my little Trump at the end. I thought that was a good song for the sisters. And it'd be nice one day to be able to start singing them songs again. But right now, they don't deserve it. But some of them are starting to. And so, and you know, if we get that 7% up to 15 or 20% by 2028, I think we'll be even further down because ain't nothing like having the sisters on your side, but they're not going to be, they can't meet the charge. It's going to be us leading us off the plantation this time. Anyway, listen, thanks for listening to me go on. Dirty Folks, you know, the equipment wasn't working. I know you was trying to come up. But anyway, I appreciate everybody here, but we're going to end this. And I don't think there's any Mayhem Monday. I don't know what happened to the program, but I think it's another night off. And I appreciate all the people in the chat. Thanks for bearing with me with the song. Anyway, everybody, thank you. Thanks for participating and listening to what I had to say. Replay this, share it. Send a cash app to Black Man Unfiltered. Whatever. Hey, PhD, what's going on? Oh man, you know what? You should have came earlier. My wife likes me singing to her. She likes my voice. Anyhow, good night, everybody. Until next time. Hey, listen, you can show up, PhD, but I'm here every Monday at 7:00. Even though we talk about different topics than just male and female beating each other to death. Anyway, good night, all. I'm gonna go on the way out, and thanks for coming.
All right, guys, another one in the books. Another great episode on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. Listen, we're doing the thing over here. So, guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. Also, if you want to donate to the channel, which helps the channel, hit your boy Cash App. It's scrolling right here, right there, at the bottom of the screen. And support the channel. But we're happy that you're here, and we look forward to seeing you on every episode. So hit the notification button so you know when we go live. Thank you again, guys, for watching. We out.